Hello, and welcome to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Welcome back to Wilaker, Chapter 19, the second to last episode. If you've been following along, thank you so much. I hope that this story has helped you in some way. I hope it's been entertaining. I hope it's been mostly a positive experience. I know for me, it was one of the more important sections, chapters, books, novels, couple months of my life. Pretty pivotal, and they've led to pretty much everything that's happened to me right now, including, 385 days sober now, so 20 days since basically the last episode. My bad, guys. Unfortunate news, friend of the show, and where I did a lot of my recording and a lot of my relapses and some of my heavier drinking, my mental breakdown there. I mean, genuinely a pivotal character in this story, but our sweet, sweet Snoop had to be put down. 16 years old, and it was just her time. So that's why I kind of took a minute to finish this up. I was pretty bummed out about it, and, I have nothing but good memories of that little goblin queen and her. There's nothing more she loved than food. I've never seen a creature love food more than her. And I will miss her sweet little barks and her laughs and her smiles. And so long, Snoop, we miss you. And thank you for always being my companion on one of the toughest parts of my life. You were always right there, sometimes aggravating it, sometimes calming it down. But life happens, and this is all part of a bigger story, right? So it's unfortunate, and kind of bummed me out, obviously. Kind of bummed myself out right now. I haven't really talked about it too much. Just kind of made an Instagram post and moved on, which is sort of what life is these days. Just make an Instagram post and move on, and then hope it comes up in therapy. But if you've been following along, last chapter was, I recorded it on a year sober, and chapter 18 was all about me finally getting sober, which happened on July 30th, 2025. I talked about the last couple days leading up to it, the last few weeks leading up to it, everything that kind of happened. And that could have been the end of this story, but I feel like the next month after that was so important to me maintaining my sobriety, and honestly the mental state that I'm in now, where the first go around, when I first got sober in 2024, all I was thinking about was not drinking. And now I very rarely think about it. Obviously, when I'm recording and talking about this stuff, it comes up, but I'm not like hankering for a drink. I'm in bars almost every single night. I'm very rarely thinking like, oh man, wouldn't that be great? It still hits me in random times, like airports and parties, like social parties, gatherings. Those are actually where it's hard, like house parties. That's where I have the most difficult time. And once I get over that hump, it's usually the first like half hour or so, I'm usually fine. But those are very, small moments. They're very far and few between, compared to my first time around, and I think part of that is because I was going to meetings at that time and all we do is talk about drinking. And, some of the stories I hear are so, I don't want to go too deep into that because that's not my story to share, but some of the stories are tragic. And it's not that I don't have a lot of tragedy and trauma from my drinking days because I do, but I have a lot of good memories of drinking, and I enjoy drinking, and I like the taste of beer, and I like trying out new whiskeys, and I like exploring new wines, and, but towards the end there, it didn't matter about the taste, it was just about the alcohol. Which is why I ended up having to quit, among other reasons. You've heard the whole story. And this second go around, yeah, I just think there were certain things that happened that month afterwards that put me in a place mentally to maintain my sobriety and not make drinking continue its hold on me the way it had for the last 15 years. And that's why I wanted to do another chapter 19. And this is also the second to last. I'm going to do one more after this because there's a couple more things I just want to tie up some loose ends and wrap this thing up in a nice little bow. Put a little Hallmark card on it and send it on its merry way. Send it out to you, the world, and then figure out what's next, because that's the end of Wilaker after the next 2 episodes. But I truly do, if this is in any way, if you've been listening and there's parts of it you have questions on, whether that's drinking or just traveling or comedy, like anything, feel free to reach out to me. I do my best to try and answer. I've had some people reach out, and I always appreciate that. But yeah, so let's get into it. This is chapter 19. So picking up where we left off, I am now sober again. I've made the resolution to be sober. Another fight with my father just was the last straw, among other reasons, just money, and literally my body was telling me, you can't do this anymore. Like it was telling me, like, look, you could keep drinking like this, but you're going to die. And, just something clicked, and I said, all right, I'm done. I took that paper with the list of comics that I performed made my debut at Zanies. I burned that, and I threw it in a bucket and had a cathartic moment. So things are starting to, like, mentally, I'm day one, I'm starting to see the fog kind of lift. But the thing I was always nervous about, and one reason that I think a lot of people just kind of keep drinking, is the withdrawal is really tough. Fortunately, because I didn't just go, okay, I'm done today, I took kind of a day or two to wean off and then quit, but I had to. And that's the thing, is weaning off, all of a sudden you kind of go, well, I was able to control myself there, why don't I just keep drinking? And luckily it was more just I had a day where I just drank a little bit less than the day before, which is still a lot of alcohol for a regular person with a job and a life ahead of them. So the withdrawal wasn't too bad, but I was also dog sitting for a friend, and it was a dog. It wasn't Snoop. It was a dog that I had to sleep on the couch, and basically just was oh, I'm just not going to sleep tonight. It's going to be a tough night. And I kind of just went through the withdrawal with the dog on the couch. It wasn't a big deal, but it kind of went through that. But the thing is, I was about to go on the road again. Within the first week, I had a show at Vanish Hall back in Boonesboro, and I put together this run for Ben Roy, who is 12 years sober, maybe even 13 at this point, but he's 12 years sober, and he's become a really good friend of mine, especially in the last year since getting sober the second time. We met in 2024. Yeah, we met in we met in the beginning of 2025, I think. Somewhere around there. My career is blending together. But basically, we met when I was sober the first time around in Columbus, doing Don't Tell Columbus, became buddies, stayed in touch, and then I put a run together for him through the DMV, which included a show at the DC Comedy Loft and a Don't Tell Maryland and Vanish Hall. And he would stay with my parents, and we did this whole thing. So we had that coming up. I also was headlining Goodnights Comedy Club, the 861 room, for the first time. This was a really big deal because the year prior was the first time they booked me, and ticket sales were so low they had to cancel. And, it's funny what is considered low ticket sales, because now I'm oh, that's that's my average. But at the time, the booker was very cool, and he was look, man, I just don't know if it's worth you coming down and doing this. Why don't we try it again later? And I'm glad we pushed it, because the second show, it's a room that probably, I would guess, sold out. It holds 100, and I think we sold 40 some tickets for this next one. But it was still a big deal to me, because it was really my first one-nighter at a club, and just showing that I could do the job, But I was nervous because now I'm doing it sober. So that was all coming up. I mean, a lot of people take breaks, especially artists, creatives. They take breaks when they first get sober, and I just don't. I just didn't. I didn't do that either time, and I think if I had, I would have just stepped away from from comedy in general. I probably would have gone and found something else to do. I probably would have come back to comedy eventually, maybe, hopefully, but I just kept going through it because I just, it's like going through Hell Week prior to the season starting. You know, it's just kind of one of those necessary things you got to do. And I just wanted to sort of white knuckle it. But luckily, unlike the first go around where I didn't really have I had guidance because I was going to meetings, but that's a very specific point of view. It's a very specific mindset. And this time around, luckily, about 8 days into my sobriety, I had Ben Roy, who I will be forever thankful for the next couple days and hanging out with him. But I got sober July 30th, 2025. I had a show on like August 2nd, I think it was. And I was like, all right, I'm going to practice some stuff for my upcoming hour that I got to do at Goodnights. And it was like a lot of jokes that I was doing on the road when I was out in the Pacific Northwest, and jokes that I don't even do now, but it was something that Drunk Will was able to just kind of like be goofy, be free, and just do these jokes. And, you know, one of them was the joke about Morgan Wallen that ended up blowing up Reddit, and like things like, you know, and this is what I was really nervous about was getting sober again, was can I perform the way I can drunk, where I'm loose and I'm fun and I can adjust and I can, you know, have the bravery is probably not is too strong of a word, but just have the confidence to try a brand new premise or joke out in the middle of a headlining set, you know? And like, that's something that you get used to, but it is still nerve wracking because the stakes are getting higher for me. You know, I'm not headlining a brewery. I'm not headlining a bar as much as I used to. I still do it, obviously, but you know, I'm headlining clubs now. So these clubs, like, I'm basically showcasing myself all over again, and hoping that the word spreads and that I can, you know, it feels like the last year has really felt like a lot of auditioning, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I go to this show. It's at the Dive Motel, and I'm still like going through some really bad withdrawal. I'm shaking. I didn't sleep well. I didn't eat enough. I didn't drink enough water. And I'm trying to like do these jokes I haven't really done in a couple months at this point. Like I haven't really tried them out since I got off the road. And the show, you know, it's a good show. It's a lot of friends that run it. I've hosted it myself. I love that show, but it can get a bit chatty in the back, and it's usually the comics that are getting the drunkest. So it was one of these like really fun combinations of like three comics that I am friends with and I do care about, but they can be pretty chatty in the back of a room because they're just, I don't know, they're just drinking a little bit and they're getting a little loud, you know, and they're just oblivious. And I'm trying to remember this fucking joke. And they're just chatting in the back, and I'm going through withdrawal, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I just like I kind of had to finally just like stop and sort of snap at them. And luckily, the host she also said something, which I appreciate because it's her show, and that was who I was more nervous about stepping on her toes because, you know, it's not like I haven't been disruptive in the back of a room, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to seem like a bit of a hypocrite or whatever, but it was really frustrating, and it wasn't even really about them. It was about what I was going through internally. So that just kind of sucked, right? Like it just didn't go well. And I was kind of like, God damn, like how is the road going to be? But I have noticed since that when I kick off a run, like a long show run, if I have one show that sucks up top, it's going to be a good run. I just had that show recently. And so I had this big run coming ahead of me. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, sometimes you just need that shitty show. You know what I mean? So that happens, and I go back to Maryland. Was kind of nervous about how my parents are going to act because I'm about a week in at this point. They were super cool. Kind of just like, all right, Will's doing it. We got the message through, and they were very positive, which I appreciate because I know that not everyone gets that. Our parents, for millennials, our parents like to hold things over our heads, and this was not the case in this situation. They were just supportive, and they were like, all right, you're trying again. That's all we really wanted is for you to try, because that's what I wasn't doing. I wasn't trying anymore. And then we pick up Ben. Ben and I start chatting it up in the car. He's talking about Nashville comedy, because, you know, he's been in comedy for a long time. He's been on HBO. He's got a Hulu special. I mean, he's a guy. And so a lot of the people that I know, I always have to be a little careful because I only know them as like the headliner at the, you know, people always are like, oh, I can't believe so-and-so lives in Nashville now. And you can name, you know, Nate Bargatze or Theo Von, like, you know, people of that ilk. And these are people that are peers for Ben. And so I'm always a little careful talking about them. And then you just kind of get the roots of, you know, how certain people think and how they feel about other people. But, Ben and I started talking about sobriety, and he's like, oh, like, where are you at? He forgot that I gotten sober the first time around because, you know, like I said, we didn't know each other super well. This was a trip that we ended up cementing our friendship. And I was like, oh, I just got back on the wagon. And he was like, oh, okay, good for you. Like, that's tough, you know? And how's it going? And I was like, well, I'm 8 days in. And he was like, oh my God, you're like new. Okay, like, we're going to talk about this. And Ben didn't just like, it wasn't like something that he like was like, okay, like, this is something we'll get to it. Ben made the next 3 days about me getting back on the wagon. Like, he was constantly checking in and constantly basically answering the questions I had that I didn't know I needed the answers to. Like, he was like, you know, the next couple years, it's going to be kind of like a, how did he describe it? A Morse code of ... of getting sober, falling off, getting up. He's like, but you just have to stick with it. And then one day it clicks. At this point, I feel like I'm at the point where it clicks. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't had a lot of like tragedy dump on my head. Like, you know, I've had some rough stuff happen last year, but nothing that like I think could trigger it or whatever it is. So, you know, Ben just answered a lot of questions, and he really made this trip about me being back on the wagon, and I really appreciated it. And he also did this thing. We were at Vanish Hall, and that show, it was me doing like 25 up top and then introducing Ben. As I'm shaking his hand to bring him on, he was like, how you doing? How you feeling? You feel okay? Like, everything's good and you feeling all right? Because he knew for the next hour he was going to be on stage, which means I could just go do whatever the fuck I wanted. Like, I could go drink, I could do anything. I wouldn't do that. My millennial guilt will not let me go do that because I would have been like, oh, I fucked up. But just the fact that he stopped in the middle of the set as he's about to talk for an hour to check on me and make sure I'm okay, make sure that I'm allowed to like go out there and I can have the trust in myself and he can have the trust in me that I'm not going to go drink, meant so much. And it was so important, those 3 days of just being around Ben. And I don't, you know, for any comics listening to this, we don't meet a lot of people like that. We meet a lot of narcissistic sociopaths, and a lot of them feign empathy, and they feign these characteristics that seem good, and that's what a sociopath is. They know how to sound that way. There's been comics I mentioned on the show that are, in my opinion, absolute fucking sociopaths. And fortunately, Ben is not one of them. Everything he says is very genuine. And when you see his act, I've even told this to him, there are moments in his act where if it was a lot of other people, it would be such pandering, and just pandering to people's sympathies and empathy. And because of the way he is, it seems so genuine because it is so genuine. And I was very fortunate that a trip that I had planned months prior ended up being with someone that is now one of my closest confidants, someone I truly care about. I've done the road with since. And Ben Roy, I can't thank you enough. I mean, those couple of days were just so important. And I really believe that just being there with Ben and understanding that you can get sober outside of meetings and you can get sober a lot of different ways, but the importance is that you are sober. I mean, it did a lot. It made me feel a lot more secure in the path that I was going on, and that I could do this not necessarily by myself, but just do it my own way. And that's what I think is one of the biggest takeaways I hope people get from Wilaker, is that, you know, I'm not saying to do this if you are getting sober or you're newly sober, but those months that I went out again were so important to me getting sober with some finality, because I had to see how bad it could really get again. I had to understand how sick I was, and I had to understand that I don't have control over this thing, no matter how many little tricks I play on myself. Nice. Yeah. So thank you, Ben Roy. And then, so after that, I had these couple days with Ben, drop him off, and then I'm back in Nashville, and then I make my way to North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is a series of shows. I have a Don't Tell. I have a new show in, I think it was Cary, North Carolina. And I have a Don't Tell. I have a show in Chapel Hill, and I have my show at Goodnights. I believe the order was Cary, Goodnights, Chapel Hill, and then Don't Tell Raleigh. Don't Tell Raleigh is one of my absolute favorite shows on the planet. I would say, as a headliner, I find a lot of my newest material and my rhythm when I do that one. Raleigh is one of my favorite places in the country to perform, and I'm so glad that Goodnights gives me the opportunity to come back at least once a year, and I cannot wait to the point that I am headlining full weekends at Goodnights in Raleigh, because it's genuinely my favorite club in the country. There's a lot of other clubs that I love. I love Empire in Portland. I love a lot of clubs, but Goodnights has a very specific, special place in my heart. And I think that's because I had to headline it sober, and that was my first major headlining gig sober. And the one in Cary went fine, did some new stuff. It was a brewery show, great, had a good time. It checked the boxes I needed to check. And I'll be honest, Goodnights was tough. The first 10 minutes, I was really uncomfortable. Because another thing that sucks for me as a headliner is I'm not a household name. I'm not a draw. So when I sell tickets, I'll get 5 to 10 people that are there because they watched the YouTube video or they know me prior or they've been following my career. I'll get lucky and I get those people from time to time. Raleigh is somewhere I've been going for a long time, so I do have a bit of that. But the most of the people in my show are just people that want to see a comedy show. And when I'm in a liberal city, I don't have to worry about it as much. Seattle is shooting fish in a barrel, they have the same mentality that I have. So I know I can do these jokes with confidence and whatever. When I'm in a place like Orange Beach, Alabama, I don't know how things are going to go. Right. And that was Raleigh is a great city. And luckily, most of the audiences I've had are on my side, but I didn't know that. So the first 10 minutes, I'm a little uncomfortable trying to get into the rhythm, but the back half of that set, when I was finally moving and shaking and getting loose and, interacting with the crowd and doing my set and feeling comfortable in my set, that's when I was like, okay, that's a learning note. You just have to figure out how to get that loose up top, And so that was the first indication that yes, I can headline sober. But I need to get comfortable with it. And that's only going to come with practice, which I would learn later on. But because it wasn't flawless, I was a little damn, can I only do this drunk? Right? Next night, Chapel Hill, much lower stakes. I did not sell very many tickets, but I had a great lineup with me and we had a really good time. And I was staying with, Joe Perrow and, we had a great time getting to know him over the couple of days that I stayed with him. And also because I had a spare room, I could still do my kind of sober, routine, which is wake up, meditate. And, I say a prayer at night and I do the clown's prayer in the morning. And I'm not really even religious, but I just, a prayer is a prayer and I say it. And it's more just so that I can bookend my day, that no matter how everything goes in between, the beginning of my day and the end of my day are the exact same. So I had a great time staying there, and that was also very helpful in its own way. But then that Saturday, I had Don't Tell, and to be honest, I had a date come. We met up earlier in that day. There was a going away party for another comic in town. We met up. We hung out at the bar, chatted it up, got along great. She was talking to me a little bit about her, she was kind of in those early phases of yeah, I think I might just need to quit drinking. But nothing that I saw while we were hanging out that I was yeah, you need to quit today. She didn't really drink. She didn't drink when we were sitting there and didn't really matter. She brought a friend. We came to the show. And I'll be honest, when I have stakes are raised a little bit, I tend to reach the heights that I need to reach when I'm on stage. So Don't Tell Raleigh, I go up as a headliner. Just rip it up for 45 minutes. It went much better than Goodnights. I even said that on stage. I was this went way better than Goodnights. But the takeaway was the confidence was there. Everything I needed to do sober as a performer, I could do. I showed myself I could do it. Went on the date after the show. This was more of a vent session because the person was newly out of a relationship and they mostly just vented about that relationship. And then 3 days later got back in the relationship. Whatever. I had a good time with him. I had a lot of fun, and it's someone that I consider a friend now. So, that's just how dates go sometimes. Sometimes that's how they go. But it was also a good experience of going on a date sober and just chatting with somebody. And, they weren't drinking heavily, anything like that. It was, it was nice. It was that was also in its own way on a life side outside of comedy was important as well. So then I get back to Nashville and I forget the shows I had in between, but I just remember feeling a little off and kind of being watching some videos from the road and just being and still not complete. Even though Raleigh went so well, I still wasn't it wasn't cemented in my brain that I can do comedy sober. I'm seeing it, but I'm not quite convinced of it. Right. And then I got into a festival, the Columbus Comedy Festival in Columbus, Ohio, and I was asked to be on the Don't Tell portion. It was kind of random, but like there's this whole festival, and then there was like a side portion of just like a bunch of us that were only doing Don't Tells as a part of the Columbus Comedy Festival. And one of them was with now one of my best friends in comedy, Hannah Roeschlein, and Hannah and I did the first show together. And right before we got on stage, Hannah is one of the most, like, just the funniest people I know. But when it comes to, like, politics and social issues, she gets so fired up. And she goes on stage and she just fires off all these jokes. And it was really like, maybe not the audience that wanted to hear it, but probably the audience that needed to hear it. And then I get all worked up in the back and I'm like, yeah, why don't I start speaking truth to power? And I think that's what I was more nervous about is can sober Will muster up this kind of out of the blue, you know, for lack of a better word, chaos, and just go up there and speak honestly and truthfully the way they want to an audience that might not want to hear it, right? And so I do my set, and then I kind of go down this, like, I kind of go on this tangent that's sort of in that vein. And I did have someone come up to me after the show, and they were like, oh my God, I have to tell you, my husband was in tears. And he even said, he's like, I think some of this is going over their heads. He's like, but he was dying. He was picking up everything you were putting down, and he was loving it. And that was cool. But again, like, I kind of, like, just didn't quite, you know, I was like, I just don't know, because it didn't feel natural, right? Like when you're going on a drunk rant, that feels natural, right? So the next night, we have another show for Don't Tell, part of the Columbus Comedy Festival. Afterwards, Hannah and I chatted it up, went to an after party, like, got to meet Jeremiah Watkins, like, had a really fun night. And like, but Hannah and I chatted for like an hour and truly cemented our friendship in that evening. And we have since headlined the road together. We chat about once a week. I mean, just such a good pal. I've crashed at her place in Chicago when I did the taping, and she was still on the West Coast. Let me use her place. You know, we've just become really good friends. So the next night we have another show for Don't Tell Columbus, and something in my brain was like, let's just leave it all on the table. You know, let's just put it all out there. And I was able to tap in to whatever nerve in my brain that Drunk Will's able to tap into, where you just let it all hang out, right? Where I'm loose, I'm having fun, I'm weaving in and out of material, they're all syncing together, but also it seems like I'm kind of making it up. And I was somehow able to tap into that, and I just had one of the best sets I had all year. And that says something, because I've talked about some other good sets I've had, but this was just one of those sets where it was like start to finish, you know, waiting for applause breaks, just crushing. And that show on that Saturday night at Don't Tell Columbus, for the Columbus Comedy Festival, that locked in something in my brain that I had no doubt after that I could stay sober and do comedy. Because that was really what this fight is all about. I think what all this journey was about was, can I stay sober and do comedy? Am I only allowed to have one or the other, right? And after that show specifically, there was no doubt in my mind that not only could I do comedy sober, I could do it better. And in the last year since, I have proven time and time again I can do comedy sober, and I can do it a lot better than I did it drunk. And there's been so many moments that if I had been drunk, I would have ruined. Like when I was at the DC Comedy Loft not too long ago, back early this year, I had 3 hecklers, these 3 drunk women, that Drunk Will would have ruined the whole show, but Sober Will was able to navigate this and have to just kind of figure it out for 45 minutes. You know, recently I was at the Blue Room last Friday, and I had a couple women call out. It's always women. I don't know why that is, because I think men, if like men are calling out, you're like, oh shit, this is a fucking Klan rally. But this woman called something out, and I just kind of was like, oh, let me get to it, and moved on, and you know, and didn't harp on it, didn't let it mess me up. And so yeah, so that month of my first month of sobriety, this second time around, August into September of 2025. And specifically having Ben Roy and Hannah Roeschlein's also sober. So like having that conversation with her about sobriety, those 2 people, you know, plus the shows and hanging out with Joe and his wife in North Carolina, and the date that I went on, and the way the shows kind of went in North Carolina, doing Goodnights well enough that they've invited me back. I've done it since. This show this year went even better than last year, and it's now something that it's on the calendar. It's something I'm going to do every single year. But that month was so important because it just got my brain to a point of like confidence, of like, you don't need alcohol to do this. Comedy and alcohol have been linked together since day one. When I was 19 years old, the first show I did was at Beatniks in Worcester, and they paid me in Narragansetts, right? And so I've always linked alcohol, partying, comedy. And at some point, the party stopped, but I just kept drinking anyway. And now I could go do the job and enjoy it again and have fun and have the clarity I need to be the best comic that I can be, and more importantly, be the best person that I can be. And the funny part is, the rest of my shows in September sucked. Fucking Charlie Kirk got shot. That put a weird fucking, I mean, everyone felt that. Like, you know, that was a shockwave through the timeline for sure. And the rest of September was really tough. But it also gave me one of the best jokes I've ever written. So, you know, whatever that saying is, one man's trash is another man's treasure. You dumb bitch. But yeah. The rest of September did suck. I mean, truthfully, it wasn't like a great, like, I didn't have good shows. I didn't feel super confident. I didn't love it. But because those first 4 to 5 weeks from getting sober went so well, and I had these important people in my life, my family, Ben Roy, Hannah Roeschlein, you know, Joe, like, yeah, things just clicked. And I do believe that month was so important. And I think it was also important that I just kept doing comedy and didn't take that break, that it cemented the things I needed to cement in my brain, that now I can walk into a bar every single night and I don't have a hankering, or I don't feel like a lapse in judgment of like, oh, I need to go get a drink or whatever it is. So yeah, this has been chapter 19. And truthfully, this is the end of Wilaker. I'm doing one more episode it's going to be a little bit different than the rest of the story, but this is essentially the end of the story, starting with, you know, a relapse in April leading to another relapse hours before opening for my hero, Rory Scovel, on, I believe it was May 17th, 2025. And here we are now. I'm about to do another 6-month tour, touring all over the country. Portland, I'll head back there. I'm not staying in the trailer again. Seattle, I'll be back. More fun there. This time I'm headlining. I'm not featuring. Heading to Charlotte. Heading to all the places mentioned in this show, in this podcast, I'm back and I'm doing again, and I get to go see them in a different light for some of them, and some of them I get to just go, hey, this is my sober place. I've always done comedy sober here. So thank you so much. Oh, and before I forget, congratulations to friend of the show, Kenny Sharp. He opened for Gladys Knight at the Ryman. I went and watched him, and holy shit, did he crush it. So good. Kenny, congratulations. Thank you so much for the song. You're the best. I am sorry it took me this long in the episode to acknowledge it, but my God, am I lucky that you did the song for this, because I'm going to have to say Grammy Award-winning musician and vocalist Kenny Sharp. And I think that's going to be sooner rather than later. My God, I can't tell you how good he was at the Ryman. Congratulations, Kenny, and take us away. See you next time on Wilaker.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.